Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Hi everybody!
Hello everyone!
My name is David Bell.
I don't know why you're being weird about it. My name is Tom Ryman.
And my name's Cristian Ramirez. I'm excited, guys.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
And we just watched La Llorona.
La Llorona.
Llorona.
Not the curse of La Llorona.
No.
That is very important.
Yeah, that's very important to know. It's not the Blumhouse Conjuring universe, La Llorona, of last year that we hideously butchered the name of.
No, you guys did real good this time. I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you. How do we actually say it?
It's La Llorona. Like
La Llorona. Okay.
Yeah. You know,
Okay.
No, we kind of got it.
right.
We got it.
Yeah.
We got
La Llorona.
Yeah, you're good.
It's fine.
We got the white dude version of it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try to do it in an accent.
No, you're fine.
That
Oh
feels
no, hell no!
worse.
I'll just feel like an asshole if I do that. Yeah.
Lo que se quedó atrás está atrás. No penses en eso. Que no te afecte.
Yeah, Christian, you suggested this to us. I assume you had watched it already, right?
When I suggested it, I hadn't watched it, but I'd read some stuff about it, and just and it was the movie that deserved more hype on the last Hypecast I was on.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did feature this trailer in a Hypecast.
Yeah.
It also it's got like a 95 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
It's 97% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Dang.
Yeah, with critics specifically. So yeah, this was one I wanted to watch. It's Halloween time.
Yeah.
It's Shocktober.
Shocktober.
Yeah.
I'm sure we went through this in our Curse of La Llorona. Can anybody tell me what the backstory is to that folktale?
That folktale.
Yeah, we talked about it when on the Hypecast too. It is.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, it is. It's actually a myth that goes back to pre-Columbian times for specifically in Central America, but it's kind of a myth that's gone all throughout Latin America. The original myth is about a woman who gets pregnant by somebody who's of an upper class, who ends up, the guy leaves her, and she goes crazy and drowns their children, and then she also drowns herself, and so she haunts the guy, and you can hear her cries at night. And that's the original myth. Obviously, this one does a different version of that.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
They sure do.
That's what I wanted to ask, is because this is like a different and I'm going to go ahead and say a better version almost. What did you guys think of this film?
I was...
Christian, you go first.
Yeah, I was a big fan of it. I think the version of the story that they did is updated and time appropriate. So I love this movie. I think it's real good.
I thought I really, really liked the idea of this movie.
Yeah.
Updating it, the La Llorona story, to be about a Mexican general who did a bunch of just fucking genocides in Guatemala.
He did some light genocide.
He did some genocides. He did some genocides in Guatemala, and now he's being haunted by a native Central American person. But I honestly, I found the film to be quite boring. Like, this movie was a drag for me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I really wanted to like it.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of it, but the movie itself just never engaged me.
I can kind of see that because it's marketed as a horror movie and it's only nominally a horror movie. Like,
right, it's only a horror movie like in the last 5 minutes.
Right.
Like it's
But it is an interesting idea, and I think well, as a drama, I think I don't mind it not being a horror movie, because what this movie's really about is a family of mostly women, all women.
It's all women,
dealing with the fact that the old man who's on his way out, and he's on trial for his genocides.
Oh yeah.
The movie does a really cool idea, which is that there are protesters constantly outside.
Yep.
So you can hear them throughout the film. There's no soundtrack really. And what this movie is
very, very few. There's a couple of instances of score, but it's very, very sparingly used.
Yeah.
Yeah. What this film is really about is these women of multi-generational group of women having to come to grips with the truth of this man, because they were born into this life. So it's you kind of can't blame them, or at least you can't blame, like, for example, the granddaughter, who's sort of, she's young and kids are dumb, so she doesn't quite know.
She's also the closest to the ghost.
Yep.
Like the ghost is kindest
because the ghost,
to her. Yeah.
Exactly, because the ghosts also know that. So it's really about that side of it, is confronting the misdeeds of this man, and from the inside, from the people who are also, the protests would tear these people apart too if they could, because
right. The ghost is more of a metaphor in this movie, even though it is literally a ghost in the film.
Well,
but it's
many ghosts, but
I'm saying the main one, Alma.
Oh yeah,
the housekeeper who is clearly La Llorona.
She's super sus.
Yeah.
She's incredibly sus.
She really likes water. She's like, tell the little girl, let's see how long you can hold your breath.
Teaching her to hold her breath.
Like, I don't know about that.
Teaching her to hold her breath. She's also the only person in the household who's like clearly native.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she's very visibly like Mayan or Central American or whatever.
She's super ghost.
Yeah, she is exactly the ghost. Like, the fact that nobody else is like, that's the fucking ghost when she walks on the house.
Yeah, no one thinks there's a ghost except for the dad.
Except for the dad, who almost shoots his wife in the face in like the opening 5 seconds.
People. Yeah. Because he knows from the start, sort of. Like, they think he's ogling her, but I'm pretty sure he's just like, she's a fucking ghost.
Yeah.
I mean, he is ogling her. He has a huge boner in that scene.
A ghost boner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie, the ghost is more of a metaphor in that it's exactly what Dave is saying. It's about a family dealing with the fact that their patriarch is this monster, and that each generation of them is somewhat complicit. With the wife being the most so, and then, gradually from there on.
Yeah. And that's I read an interview with him that was on RogerEbert.com with Jairo Bustamante, who's the guy who directed and wrote this. And he said that was a lot of the point of this, was that there's 3 different generations as in terms of this Guatemalan genocide and how they deal with it. And the older people don't really even recognize it. They don't talk about it. It's not something that they even think about at all on a daily basis. The middle generation, which is the mom, is one that kind of deals with it. Like, they don't know how to deal with it because it's something they were raised in. And then the younger generation is something that they are just going to try to say, it's like, okay, well, it's your guys' responsibility now to do something with this that we failed to do. And
they straight up.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, and that was his idea around the movie.
Okay, yeah. They straight up confront it. The younger girl is sort of talking about it because she doesn't know not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ultimately, spoilers, it's the wife of this general who ends up choking his ass out because she gets directly attacked by the ghosts in a mental way where they're like, this is what he did to us. Because she needs that the most. And then they just, I assume they didn't tell anybody what happened because it's almost a comedic cut to funeral.
Yeah.
And it's just like, they're all looking at each other like, no shit, that was a weird night.
Don't fucking tell anyone. This is our burden to bear now.
Yeah.
But I think, Tom, focusing on what you found slow about it, I should say that I woke up and watched this film. So I think I've mentioned this before. You know, when you wake up and you watch a film, you're a little more, if it's slow, you're more patient with it because you're waking up. You're not like on edge. You're not caffeinated. You're just kind of living in the movie. So I enjoyed it. I recognize that it's a bit slow, and I think I guess the reason why is because like that, what we just discussed is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. Mm-hmm. I think the characters are a little, this is hard because I guess what I was going to say is the characters are so bummed all the time that they're a little lifeless, but they should be.
That's ultimately, that's a good argument to make, but that ultimately is a main point of why I found this film to be dull, is that everything is so flat.
Yes,
yeah.
but I guess in order to have fixed that, because you can't like stick a bodyguard who's like a comic relief, although that would be funny. He just keeps coming in and be like, "Hey, Greg is here, guys."
What happened to that bodyguard, by the way? He got led away by the ghost children.
Yeah, he just ran. I guess he ran outside while they were doing the seance at the end.
I think the ghosts, they realized you catch 4 flies with honey.
Yeah.
So like the ones that they were like, look, something's going to go down in there. So they're like, how do we get rid of the bodyguard? It's just like, let's just have 2 children be like, come with us.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I kind of liked the bodyguard.
Yeah. Like, I also like the idea that he's outside, like playing with the kids, turns around, his employer has been choked out. Yeah. He's like, damn it, it's children.
His employer has been strangled to death by his wife.
Fucking kids got me
God
again.
damn ghost children every time.
But so the way you would compensate normally is you would make this movie have more scares leading up, and it does have some horror moments, but a lot of them are fake outs and a lot of them are just sort of creepy moments.
Right, this movie is mostly just creepy. There's no real horror moment in it
because for the most part they're inside. I will say the creepiest fucking moment of this movie, as far as I'm concerned, is when the woman is giving her testimony.
Yeah.
With the veil. And the director does this very specific thing. By the way, this director, his other film was nominated for Best Foreign Language on the Oscars.
What was it?
I don't remember.
Let me see. It's called Ichkanul. It's based. It's another one that centers on native people and has the main character, Maria Mercedes Coroy, who is La Llorona in this one.
Oh yeah, she's the ghost in this one.
Yeah. She was in that one too.
Oh, cool.
Okay. The way this director shoots scenes, I love it. A lot of like odd shots, like for example, when he frames this woman giving her testimony, she is center frame, and this isn't anything new, but it's just a slow pull out.
Right,
as she's talking for like minutes.
We don't see her interpreter until like the last line.
Yeah,
and she's just describing what happened to her.
And there's a bunch of other women in the, I guess the audience, is that what you call it in a courtroom? Who are also wearing veils.
Yeah, and so you instantly know what's up.
Yeah,
from the veils and from, and he does this great like. These moments of visual, like not drama, suspense that aren't necessarily like horror suspense, but like for example, when they're the other character who's often framed this way is the general, center screen, like center of the shot, no matter where he is, if he's sleeping in bed. Often like very close up on his face, and the part where he's at court again, where the judge is starting the verdict, they do this beautiful thing where the photographers in the back start slowly riling and slowly standing and slowly like building behind him.
Yeah.
And it's these really like it's almost the choreography of the scene and the cinematography makes these really great suspense moments that aren't necessarily they're like emotional suspense more than anything else, but they come off really chilling in these scenes, and I really, really liked that. Yeah,
for me, I will say about the courtroom scene, he actually drew a lot from actual things that happened. There was a court case, and he had this lady, Rigoberta Menchú, who is a civil rights leader in Guatemala. And the thing with the veils was an actual, like, real moment that happened. And at the end, I'm just looking at the article that I read about this. He was talked about. She was giving testimony, and at the end, they all took off their veils as like a symbol of them no longer being afraid to give this testimony, and so therefore the justice system should do their job and not be afraid to convict the general that was on trial. So yeah, he draws heavily from history, and I agree about the slow pans, the slow zooms, and all that kind of stuff. It's
a lot of shots on tripods, like just like kind of watching the scene unfold.
Yeah, it's not super complex the way that any of this is shot, but it is. I do like the way he fills up, the way he paints a picture. Like everything that's within the frame is, I mean, I really like the way that it's shot, even though it's simple.
Yeah, it's also from the perspective of the family.
Right.
In a almost sympathetic way, including the general at times.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting choice.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's the appropriate choice.
Yeah.
Because it's showing you that, monsters aren't born in a cave. Like, they don't crawl out of a volcano from hell.
Yeah.
Except for Gollum.
Except for Gollum. Except for Gollum, right. Except for Gollum. No, but dudes like Hitler and the dudes that do genocides are just kind of fucking normal-ass dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how who amongst us hasn't shot at our maids?
Right. But you know what I'm saying.
Because that's how you get a ghost. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
I like that. Like, what does he think that gun's going to do to the ghosts? Whatever. I mean,
I don't know. He keeps going to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's his
he almost shoots his wife. He almost shoots his granddaughter.
He shoots his granddaughter.
Shot her in the arm. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. It's
his only recourse.
Someone's got to take away his guns. Yeah.
Well, they say at the beginning that they're going to take him away.
Yeah. Well,
right.
I guess that they just didn't. I don't know.
I forgot.
Maybe he's got a lot of guns, and he just hid that one.
Yeah.
But they make him into. He's sympathetic in everything except for like the things that you hear about him. And
right. And he's a frail old man.
Right.
Like when he gets convicted of genocide, he has like a stroke.
Yeah.
Like he has a medical emergency. He's this withered, pitiable old man.
Yeah. And you don't see until the very end that, this guy's a fucking monster. Like,
yeah, he's a monster. Yeah.
I think they wanted to instill a little bit of doubt of whether or not he did this stuff, but I don't think that was ever a question.
Well, it was always a light question, because the question they raised during the trial and among the family is like, well, did he actually do these things, or did he just give orders? And like when I saw that scene, I was like, well, what's the difference, sweetheart?
Right.
But
I think this is why this also fits really well with La Llorona as a like monster for this.
Yeah.
Because that folklore is a weeping woman. And this movie begins with a moment where he wakes up and hears a woman weeping.
Yes.
And he immediately gets his guns.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was like, dude, maybe someone needs help. But clearly, this isn't the first time he's heard it.
No, he knows something.
And so-
He knows something's coming for him.
Yeah.
But the question of like if you remember in The Sixth Sense, there was this great moment in The Sixth Sense where Bruce Willis was like, "You think the ghosts need help?" And that's when like it starts. The boy gets better because he's like, "Oh yeah." And so like if you saw someone in your house weeping, that would be. Like, if you don't know you're in a horror movie, your first instinct would be, "Oh, this person needs my help."
Right.
And
Yeah.
so who is the type of person that the sounds of a weeping woman would be a threat? It's a person who's guilty.
Yeah.
It's a person who their weeping is a sign of their guilt. They're afraid.
It's an indictment. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the thing haunting them is, and I don't remember. Like I understand woman drowns her kids, weeping. But the weeping in like the original story, I assume, is not like she doesn't haunt people who necessarily caused.
No, she's
just trying to steal kids and stuff.
Exactly. She's a vengeful ghost in the original too.
Right.
But obviously, it's not always vengeful against people that deserve it. It's
Right.
yeah. It's just the
that's-
Llorona's going to steal your kids if like they run away or they're bad kind of stuff.
Right, and it makes this so much better.
Yeah.
That it's a weeping woman and she is a direct threat to this man because he's a monster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought that's
That's
such a
interesting,
good
yeah.
fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is like a sign of his guilt, and then they extend it to at the end, when she's about to choke out her husband, all of them show up outside.
Yeah.
They're having a whole party, and they're like the protesters, who again are a threat throughout. Like I love when they're in the ambulance.
Yeah, and they're thumping on the side of the ambulance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not sure what it is at first, and it sounds really creepy. And you don't know, and there's a little girl in there, and again, it's all framed of like, oh no, they're gonna get you, and it's like, but also maybe they should get at least one of you.
Also, you have this coming.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and I don't know. This is a movie that I think, even though it was slow, I'm going to always, for this one, I was always going to give it more rope, I guess, when it comes to those sorts of things, just because it is a story that's like personally important, that I think it's the kind of story that needs to be told. So even if it's going to be kind of slow, then it's not going to matter to me. Like, it's something that I was invested in the first place. So I had going into it, I was already like, yeah, this is the stuff that was going on that made my grandparents move here in the 80s. Like, this is the stuff that is vitally important that I think needs to be talked about more, because we don't have enough of these kinds of stories in the first place. So, and
Right.
and this is such a common story just all across the Americas. And
That's like the like conundrum of this is that you could add a bunch of scares in it.
sure.
But are you taking away from the point then? Is it destined to be slow, is I guess my question.
I think it is.
Because
I think it has to be.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think I'll enjoy this movie more on a second viewing, because it really is kind of a perfect idea
Yeah.
to tell a story. Like, it's merging this piece of folklore from these people, specifically from this group of people who were targeted by the military in the 80s,
Yeah.
to tell a story about how they were targeted by the military in the 80s.
yeah.
I think adding jump scares or dumb shit to this would just cheapen it, and then you'd get The Curse of La Llorona, which is what we watched last year, which is a fucking dog shit movie that everyone should be embarrassed about.
It reminds me of Michael Haneke, the director of Funny Games.
Yeah.
Talking about, which again, we talked about this at length with Jason, about like depicting the Holocaust in a suspenseful way for entertainment, which, we had our different opinions from him.
I disagree with that, but yeah.
But it's the same question for this almost because I think the better comparison that like he was getting at is like Nazi zombies.
Right.
Yes.
Whenever we're like
100% Nazi zombies. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that this is like these are people suffering from genocide. Do you really want them jumping out at people like ghouls?
Right.
Well, and this movie goes so much into the psychology of the family unit around a person that does this, and like the humanity of a person that does this.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes it's so disconnected that it's like it's really shocking. Like we see in this movie, like he, aside from like the times he shoots his gun, apart from the times he shoots his granddaughter in the arm, he's basically just a grandfather. Like he's just a regular old man.
Yeah.
But I think this movie does a really good job of juxtaposing those two things of like, well, there are things people do that are monstrous and inexplicable, and then it's just completely divided from who they are in their personal private lives.
Right. It's monsters are made from society, like it's from a larger thing that created this guy as a monster, because you can see him when he's so sympathetic when he's laying there weak and frail and just telling his daughter that he loves her and stuff like that. And then like you said, that's super effective when it comes to telling the tale of this guy wasn't born a monster. This guy was a monster because of all of these circumstances and all of the things, the choices that he made within those circumstances, like these,
and the allowances that society made him, like in Black Klansman.
Yeah.
Topher Grace's David Duke is very amiable.
Yeah.
And in the most recent Borat movie, if you guys have seen it,
I have not.
Yeah, I saw it.
He shacks up for a brief period with two ultra-conservative dudes who are really nice to him. They're very kind guys, but they're also like QAnon Nazis.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, you're talking about the idea, because in this movie, I never once liked the general.
No.
I would say, like, critiquing this from a film perspective, it's predictable.
Sure.
You kind of know, okay, the ghosts are going to haunt him, he's going to die. That's not like a hit against it, because a lot of horror films are predictable.
Yeah.
And it's more about the family, too.
Yeah.
Yes, it's more about the family. It's more about who kills him.
Right.
But at no point did I get what you guys are saying, but it's that thing where I guess maybe I've watched so many movies that I didn't have sympathy for him once, even when the movie tried to, because it was like, well, you're a monster.
Well, I mean, I think my question is,
I think it's more like sympathy for the family. They do the thing where the wife wets the bed because she's having a dream.
That bad dream, yeah.
And it's them who are like, again, it's tough because they're very rich.
Yeah.
They're doing very well. And I think that's part of the movie is to make us feel almost complicit and make us feel divided constantly, because it is like, oh, these poor people, but also they're like sitting in their backyard eating fresh fruit, meditating, while you can hear people scream at them.
Backyard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's I think it's meant to, a film like this is almost meant to appeal to American audiences, suburb audiences. That's where the conflict, because you can relate to them, and they're enjoying things that aren't like luxuries,
Right.
necessarily, but like are clearly considering what they've done,
Right.
or who they are. It feels like they're getting better treatment. They hold the help hostage for their benefits.
Yes.
And then the help all leave. So they're not good people.
No.
But I think a weird comparison, and I am not advocating for this film, is Sandra Bullock in Crash, where
Sure.
you kind of feel bad for her because she doesn't understand why she feels the way she feels.
Right.
From what I remember, I've only seen that movie once, and it changed my life. No, this is not a great movie, but
It is an embarrassing film.
It was.
yes, but her character I remember being interesting because the whole idea is she's like racist and just always angry, and then she hurts herself and no one comes to help her.
Yeah.
And it's this realization that she is just a toxic human and into herself. And so it's this family who's sort of like they've spent their life denying it, and they say it. They say like, "Oh, those women, they were whores. They weren't raped." And they clearly have these really toxic dogma in their family to protect them from the very obvious truth.
Yes.
It reminds me a lot of, powerful people in general, the stories they have to tell themselves every day so they don't walk into the ocean.
Yeah.
And so you almost feel bad for them because they're lying to themselves
Right.
for so long, and there's this bitterness in them. That's why they're kind of soulless. That's why they're not entertaining to watch, because they're very sad people.
They're depleted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want. I want to be clear that I don't think I ever felt sorry for the family. I think that I was trying to more communicate that how effective it is to do it through the lens of this family, where you only ever hear the protesters outside who are screaming for justice, that they're never going to get. And
Right, we only ever see them from the family's point of view.
Exactly.
It's never on the ground level. It's always them looking out the window or us hearing the protesters in the background. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some very it follows like shots there where like he's looking at the protesters that zooms in slowly on the one that is relevant, that's looking right back.
On La Llorona?
Yeah.
When she approaches. They do it a couple times. It's I loved how they did that.
Yeah.
That scene where it's clearly the fucking ghost walking towards the house.
My favorite is when the little girl looks up and she's holding a frog. And then she's just like, "Oh, cool, frog."
Yeah.
And then they walk away together.
Yeah.
And they don't even have to say anything. It's just like, "I got this frog."
Yeah.
It's like, I like frogs.
You want to fuck with this frog?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of
man.
want to fuck with
I'm
that
a
frog.
child.
Yeah, it's fucking
I'm a
frog
child.
o'clock. Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's frog o'clock, baby.
Frogs delight me.
Yeah.
I don't care where you're from. If you're a child and someone hands you a frog, you're like, "Fuck yeah. I got a frog now."
Yeah. Yeah, I do want to mention that I really loved the actual performances. The acting in this movie is something that I could watch like all day. Because even though there was a level of like muted, like oppressed, like feeling that they were conveying the whole time, there was a big part of it that just like the 2-person scenes or like the 3-person scenes that happened were really super effective to me. Like I just really enjoyed them going through this emotional drama together. I enjoyed watching that specifically.
And again, from the perspective of the family, they do some things that are very interesting. I like the scene where they're like, when they accept that there's probably ghosts.
Yeah.
They go to cleanse the father, the general of evil. They do like a cleansing ceremony, and it's like, yeah, you go ahead and try that on
give
him.
that a shot.
Yeah, because there's that woman who's the help, who's like clearly been with the family for a while,
And might also be the general's daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, great film. But it's she's sort of like, unlike the other help, who are like, "I don't give a shit about this family. You got ghosts and protesters. We're leaving."
Yeah.
Unlike that, she's clearly devoted to them almost as a family member.
Yeah.
And she also completely accepts the idea of the innocence of this man.
Yeah. Well, and I don't even know
Because
if she completely accepts the innocence of it. It's just that maybe she also knows that, that's her dad. So she's going to stick around. Because it seems like the mom definitely knows that that's her, I guess, stepdaughter. I don't know. But, yeah. And, I guess I just enjoy the symbolism of having somebody who's a servant in the house. Like, that extra level of drama of like, oh, she's like an albatross around his neck. She is this symbol of all the dirty shit that he did, but she's not even allowed to be really a part of the family because of that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
There's shit. What was I going to say? Yeah, there's a conflict between like devotion to family in this, because you think about the idea of like, if someone in your family murdered someone and was on trial and like pretty clearly did it, there you'd still kind of be like, no.
Yeah,
I'm on their side.
Yeah, you don't just stop loving. You can't just stop loving your dad if he was like, this has been your dad your whole life, and you're only finding out about that kind of shit now. It's a super conflicted place to be in, especially for like the mom's character.
It's always funny when like something happens and they interview the family and they're like, I don't think they did it, and it's like, well, of course you don't. You're pot committed.
Yeah.
You're invested in this. It's all good ideas. It's all good ideas.
Yeah. This is, and again, like I feel like I'm gonna like this movie more the next time I watch it. But the idea is solid, and I really respect the filmmaker and what they were going for with this movie, even though it was kind of dull to me.
Sure.
Yeah, I was looking at reviews, and basically it's like New York Times, RogerEbert.com, they all loved it, and then like Bloody Disgusting is like, the fuck? Because it's if you're watching, which again explains like 98% critics, 60% audience, because they pushed it as a horror film, and I would almost
not really,
count it as a supernatural drama.
Yes.
More than a horror film.
Yeah, it uses the language of horror films and like the dressing of it without it actually using all of it, and like using jump scares and shit like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. I mean, jump scares are not. It's also like the subject is horrible.
Exactly.
It's a horror
Yeah.
subject. It's like I said, the part that filled me with the most dread is that courtroom scene. So there's definitely like, there's something to it being a horror film. It's just, I like, for example, a movie that I never thought about as a horror film was compared to one was Downfall, the Hitler movie, the Hitler meme movie, which I think we also talked about in the Jason podcast.
Yeah, we did in the Funny Games podcast. Yeah,
but like, when you watch that film, it reminds you of like Jonestown, and there's these moments that are straight out of a horror movie, because you're watching a bunch of illogical people self-destruct and take children with them and stuff like that, and it's like watching a cult. And so like, I think horror movies can be all shapes and sizes depending on how you think of them, because we all know the slow burn, non-jump scare horror is designed to just kind of deeply frighten you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The thing in this movie that's deeply frightening isn't the ghost.
Yeah.
It's the general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I almost think maybe that's what they could have. I would have actually liked more of hearing from the general, more charisma from him, because he's, again, like, They went with sympathy because he's old.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, he's just like shooting up his house and being weird and old.
Yeah.
It might have been interesting to make him like really charismatic.
Sure. Yeah, it's the type of subject that you could make a very compelling courtroom drama about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just because, and like you said, that's the scene where you feel the most tension is just when she's giving her testimony, because it naturally has tension in that. Right.
But again, I guess it is the point is that you don't feel like you're in the room with a monster with the scenes with the general, because you're not supposed to. You're supposed to feel like you're in the room with the dad, or grandpa who's aging and confused. Which they go for like Tom pointed out, he has a stroke as soon as the verdict happens. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's a neat idea.
Yeah. And I feel like this movie also, it doesn't pull punches when it comes to the reality setting in of, oh yeah, he had the verdict that they rendered was that he was guilty, but also a higher court throughout the trial. So now he's just gonna escape to his mansion and live out the rest of his days there.
Yeah, because that was that thing where like my first instinct was like, wait, why aren't they bringing his ass to jail?
Right.
What the hell? And then it was like, oh right.
Yeah.
So the ghosts are just like, well, fuck that.
Yeah.
Can we kill him? Like, we can't really do anything. Can we make his wife choke him to death? Yeah, I bet we could do that.
Do that, please. Yeah.
Yeah, and like we should do the thing that the actual people in the movie were doing more often, where just protesting outside of somebody's house because they're a fucking monster, making sure that they don't have a comfortable place to live in.
Right. Yeah, there's a big. I mean, yeah, there's a whole. Because it's a ghost protest at the end. That's the whole thing. It's like the protesters and the ghosts are kind of one and the same in this.
Yeah.
In that, like the protesters are kind of haunting the house, and then at the end, they think at first they're seeing protesters, and they're like, "Wait, no, those aren't protesters."
Yeah, those are the people that got disappeared by the fucking death squads.
Yeah. God, if it didn't work, if the because the ghosts don't seem like they can hurt anybody, because you'd think they would just choke them out themselves.
Right.
Like, if the wife didn't choke him out, do you think the ghosts would just protest?
Probably.
Just with signs? And they're like, shit. We just got more layers of protesters.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And
I'd like to hope they can hurt him, but they didn't,
I mean, he's already, he was going to die soon anyways. He was having all those breathing problems, and
yes,
he had dementia is what it seemed like, so.
If you dumped a bucket of feathers on him, he'd die.
Yeah, that was. I just want to mention, but that was one thing that I really liked when they did it, was the way that the 3 generations of women in the house were responding to the protesters, because the grandma was always just calling them savages and basically fuck those people.
Yeah,
and the mom had a mixed relationship where sometimes she was like, you could tell that she was uncomfortable, but it's also like she understands that they're not there for no reason. And then the daughter even has that moment where she's listening to them play music at the protest, and she tells her mom, it's beautiful what they're doing out there.
Yeah, the daughter's like, this is like a party. Yeah. It's great.
Exactly. Yeah, and it was that's just feeds into the idea that the main, I guess, dramatic crux of this movie is just the 3 different generations and how it affects them differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I do want to note the ghost's goal, I don't think, is to actually kill him.
No.
I think the ghost's goal is to expose him, and that's the idea. It's the family, because again, La Llorona ingratiates herself on the family. Yeah. She enters their house, and so the idea isn't like, we're just going to torment you. It's more like this. He did this thing, and we want you to know. We want everybody to know, and you're kind of the last people to accept this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
because that's the thing, is those are, whenever someone comes out as a monster, that is kind of the last people to accept it. Right? Is the people who are the closest to that person, because that's the hardest. That's the people whose minds are hardest to change, and the ghosts have to literally blast the misdeeds, the images of the genocide into the mom's head, because there's sort of nothing. She married this man, that's really all she has to live what he did.
Yeah, she spent,
and then those people are also, I think, the quickest to turn on a dime once they're convinced. And she does that and chokes his ass out. Yeah,
she spent her whole life creating and accepting the narrative around the fact that he was doing something for his country, that the only people he ever killed were the guerrillas and not the actual women and children. So she's the one that has been, once that breaks, that's her whole life shattering, and she fucking kills him.
Right.
Yeah.
it's not for him. He's gonna die.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's seconds away from death anyway. This is about the family. It's about the women in this family. It's not about him.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Cool film. Any other thoughts on this?
No.
I don't.
I think I need to watch it again.
Yeah.
It's a breezy, like 90, 95 minutes.
I wouldn't call it breezy, but it is a 95.
Sure.
It is 95 minutes.
Yeah, it's not going to take your whole day away to watch it. For me, I would say anybody who's like, especially like I said, for me who has personal stakes in this kind of a movie, it's a very palatable way to learn about something, because he does just directly pull stuff that actually happened in history and talks about it through the lens of horror. So I think it's a good way to digest that kind of stuff if you haven't already digested it in another way.
Yeah, and I'd say if you like real slow burn horrors, It Comes at Night kind of comes to mind, although I think that had a little more. But like anything that it's not exactly a horror.
Yeah.
It's on the fringes of horror. It's I would call it almost in the horror genre experimental because of that. So I don't know if you're more into the slow burn, into the unconventional horrors, and this will do you.
Yeah, and especially if you just like family dramas, like it's very much that.
It is primarily that. Yeah.
If you enjoy genocide stories, I guess this is the one for you. You sick fuck.
Oh, I do like the fact that the one guy that was at the very beginning, who was obviously another general, who said that if if they convict him, then they're going to come for us next. At the very end of the movie, you can see that La Llorona's actually coming after him now. So.
Yeah, they ghost you after. Yeah. That was interesting.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good plant and payoff. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a sode.
Yeah. Christian, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
thanks for suggesting this movie.
Yeah, I'm very happy that I got a chance to talk to you guys about it. It was fun.
Yeah. Where can we find you? Give us your info.
Yeah, I'm mainly on Twitter at fanboychristian. That's Christian with no H. And I do stuff on Small Beans sometimes, hopefully more stuff in the near future. I was kind of taking a break for a while. But check out my stuff there. And I mean, people on this network have heard me before on some of your other shows. So check out my stuff there again. Maybe we'll do something again, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. I'll tell you all about our Patreon real quick. Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We have exclusive podcasts there, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, and Fox Mulder is a maniac. Go look. Oh, and I think we still have our producer tiers still open, you guys.
Nice.
Oh yeah, check that out. We also have a store at tpublic.com/store/gamefullyunemployed, where you can get t-shirts, stickers, masks, mugs, posters, all kinds of shit, including some new designs. So check that out. Check it out.
Yeah.
Do it!
Yeah, you can watch movies with us on Friday nights. I'm usually there.
You sure can.
What did we watch last time?
Oh,
what
man.
bullshit?
The Faculty.
Cat's Eye. We watched Cat's Eye.
And fucking 13 Ghosts.
13
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What a fucking night.
That's what we had going on.
Quality. You can trust our opinions about movies.
Yeah.